Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the MakeCode Arcade Advanced stream. I'm Richard on the forum and in real life.
I'm Shannon at Shakao on the forum.
And I'm Daryl at Darzu on the forum.
All right, what are we doing today, guys? I know we already talked about it like 5 seconds ago, but for the viewers at home.
So we talked about the possibility of doing like a collection game, like focusing on inventory and picking things up during the stream and sort of showing how you can do that.
Yep. So, you know, very often in a game you have objects that you're collecting or you just want to know, do I have the key or not? And today we're going to show you one way to kind of build that into your game. And so we decided on that much, but we haven't decided on what the setting is going to be yet. So I think this is going to be a game that's sort of like, you know, crafting survival game type thing. Probably not survival, but you just go around, break things, get resources, and then we'll figure out something to do with them. So what's a resource-rich environment that we've not yet, you know, made a game for?
Well, so we decided not cave and not forest because we've been doing those a bunch. I think some good ones could be like ocean floor.
Yeah. Mars has ice. Is that true?
Mars.
Yeah, I don't think it's like all over the place.
That's why you have to hunt for it.
We could be like, you know, Curiosity Rover, or we could come up with some other aspirational name for a hypothetical rover.
Okay, I like it. I don't know much about Mars. You guys are gonna have to fill that in, but
It's red.
Thanks.
We're good.
I mean, it's also fictional, right? So we could just have it, you know, you start turning over rocks and
Yeah, I'm
there's
pretty
all
sure
kinds
Mars
of
is real.
goodies. Well, sure, but you know, this is a hypothetical rover in a new area on Mars that's just rich with all kinds of scientific discoveries.
All right. Well, I'm going to start by making a rover sprite, and we'll see how this goes.
Don't forget the selfie stick. That's important.
So let's see. I'm going to give it a head up there. Let's give it some solar panels. Like that. Give it some wheels.
Does the rover actually have a selfie stick, Daryl?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, man.
How do you think it takes those 360 pictures of itself?
You know, it just asks a tourist that's walking by.
It's true. I didn't think about that.
All right, we'll fill in those solar panels. And then, yeah, I don't know. What else should I do here? I don't know how I'm going to possibly say that this is a Mars rover.
I think some context will be more obvious. It can say things like, I'm a Mars rover.
Right. Two
Good
things
context.
rovers have: selfie sticks and the ability to speak.
I think so.
See?
Okay, well, do you have any suggestions for what I've got right now?
I think it's great. I think we should
Yeah.
work with it.
This is good,
All right.
I think.
All right, we'll start with this. Make it a little thinner. It's kind of like a turtle, space turtle.
A Mars turtle, yeah.
All right. And I'm also going to set the background color. So let's see how it looks with red. I'm going to guess it's a little much.
I think we could do tan and sell it. Well, we should, yeah, red.
Yeah,
I think we can make red work. I don't know.
I think it's. How about orange?
Yeah. Orange is not bad.
Yeah, orange is good, I think. Here I am trying to move the sprite even though we haven't done anything yet. Okay, so I'm going to call this one the rover instead of the player.
Maybe we should we come up with a name for it? What's it?
Yes.
Didn't we had Curiosity? What are the other rover names?
Opportunity.
Opportunity.
This is all you guys.
Aspiration.
Fido.
Auspicious.
I
Okay.
like auspicious. That's cute. I don't know.
All right. Let's name him Auspicious.
Okay.
Nice. First try. That's it.
That's it?
Yep.
All right.
I brought up the dictionary preemptively.
I don't like to brag, guys, but I did win the English award at my high school. I even got a pin for it. Okay, so we've got our rover, which just went off the screen. And we want to probably make this bigger than just the screen. So let's go ahead and do a tile map, and I'll leave it mostly blank right now, but just so that we have an area that we can walk around in. So gonna check out the set tile map, which is in the scene category. Gonna go to my tiles, and let's just make some resources. So I'm not going to do any fancy art right now. I'm just gonna do some colored squares.
Ice.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That one's ice. And
we've exhausted the list of things I know about Mars. So up to you, Daryl.
Let's see. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's aliens on a lot of in a lot of sci-fi settings.
Pretty sure.
Some of them have like algae and stuff grown on Mars.
Oh, algae's good. Yeah.
How is that possible? There's no water.
Well, no, there's ice.
There is ice, but I don't think algae grows.
This is Martian algae, man.
What is the resource you're currently creating, Richard?
What? Oh, this is the tile map.
Oh, this is the map. Sorry, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just putting some stuff in the corners. Later, I'll go back and edit these tiles so that they actually look like something, but I just want, something on the screen right now. And I'm going to go ahead and make these walls, too. Impossible to tell on the red tiles, but...
Well, you're making them walls? I thought we wanted to go over them and collect stuff.
Well, I think what's going to happen is you're going to break them.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
So they're going to start out as walls, and then we will have some mechanism to just like ram into them and turn them into resources, and we'll get rid of the tile.
Awesome. I love it.
Cool. Let's see if I did this all right. Yep, cool. All right, so now we've got a tile map. It's just a bunch of colors. We've got a poorly drawn rover, and we've got a background color that's orange. So like we usually do with the tile maps, I'm going to go into the scene category and drag out the camera follow block. And we're going to follow auspicious. And now we've got the camera following behind us. Okay.
Awesome.
So we've got 3 resources so far. We've got red stuff, brown stuff, and ice. So I'm going to create a comment, and we're going to make a glossary of things. So ice, and we need some way to refer to these in our program. And so I'm going to be using numbers. And that's just because I've thought a little bit of how I'm going to implement this. It'll make a little bit more sense in a second. But let's go ahead and assign all of these resources numbers. So ice is going to be 0.
And this is a pretty common thing in games. Like many Minecraft players know that each block has like a number.
Yep.
Especially if you're into modding.
Yeah, and you've seen us do it on the stream before too. If you've watched our Flappy Bird or the grocery shopping one where we assigned a number to each direction.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe also Joe Gumshoe. I don't remember.
Right.
All right. What is this red stuff?
Rock.
Okay. What's the brown stuff then, Daryl?
Algae.
Algae.
Yeah. Okay. So in this scenario, there are gigantic blocks of algae that we are breaking through.
Well, it's
a
large patch of ground with little bits of algae in there. That's why you can't really see any green.
Okay, guys. So the red stuff is going to be rock. The brown stuff is going to be algae. Which I still think is weird, but there you go. So we've got our 3 resources, and we want to have an inventory that's kind of keeping track of things. Before we do that, though, let's go ahead and actually make it so that we can destroy these things and turn them into resources. So what's a good way to do that? In Minecraft, you typically hold down, like the A button or the equivalent, and it lets you just slowly break through the rocks. Something like that good here.
Yeah.
The other thing I can think of is we could make it so that maybe you hold down a button and then ram into them.
It could be maybe if you like press A in a direction at the same time, then you like ram in that direction, and if there's a wall in that direction, you you break through it or something.
So we're already using the directions for movement.
It could also be you hold down A, and any wall you're touching, you start to break down. And to start, we could just mean it could just be instantly destroyed. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'm going to do right now is I want to keep track of what all of these different terrain types are. And so since we've defined it right here, I'm going to make an array real quick, and that's going to be resource tiles. So I'm also going to be creating an array later to store how much we have of every resource. But this is just going to make it so that it's easier for me to correlate the resource IDs with the resource tiles that you're breaking down. So when you drag out an empty array block, put this in here. I'm going to go into the scene category. And I want to get one of these tile blocks right here.
Right.
And put in 3. All right, the first one we're doing this, first one is ice. So it should be blue. Second one is rock, and then the third one is our brown algae.
Oh, you might need the tile map extension. I don't know. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I think I'll be able to do it, but it'll probably be easier if we add the tile map extension. So you know what? Let me go ahead and add that right now. I'm out doing multi-tile map stuff, so hopefully it'll go a little smoother than earlier this week when we tried to use the tile map extension. So the extension that Shannon was talking about was the tile map extension you can get to by going to the extensions, and then does it show up in here, or do I need to type something?
No, you have to search. I haven't figured out how to make it show up there yet. Actually, I need to talk to one of you guys about that.
You need to put it in the target config.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Cool.
See, I learned something new every day.
That's a little internal PXT thing that means nothing to anybody outside of our team.
Including the word PXT.
Yeah. So we have, I went into the extensions, I typed tile map, hit enter, and at the bottom of this list is this guy down here, the tile maps extension. Again, note the beta, because this extension still has some bugs that we're working on. You won't see all of these ones when you are doing extension stuff. It's just because I work on a lot of extensions and I have them all installed locally, which is why they show up in the dialog. Okay, cool. So when we are near a tile and we press A, we want to damage that tile, basically. So right now, I think that maybe eventually we want to make it so that it takes more than one hit to break a tile, or maybe even they have various amounts of health based on what type of resource they are. But for now, I'm just going to go with the easy route, which is just making it so that we destroy immediately. And we can kind of come back later to figure out a more elegant way to do it.
Right.
Okay, so inside of this tile map category, I'm going to, well, first let me pull out a controller on A button pressed. What's up?
In the scene category, don't we have an overlaps with wall tile block? Would that be helpful?
We have a collide with wall.
Up a little bit, hits wall.
So I think what you're suggesting is instead of doing what we did before, we do on sprite of kind player hits wall, And then if I do if is A button pressed,
Right.
then I want to destroy it. So I'm going to go into here, say if A button is pressed, then I'm going to figure out which tiles are walls.
Oh, this is tricky because we don't get location.
Yeah, the wall doesn't give you the. I think if you do it the other way, so if you do on A button press, then you can do is hitting wall in all directions, and then just grab the tile.
I've got an idea.
Okay.
So yeah, give me a sec. So I want to get the location of auspicious, and I'm also going to use this location blank of block. Okay, so if A button is pressed, if the tile at the location to the left of the location of auspicious, so in this example right here, the location of auspicious is right here. The location to the left would be this tile, so not a wall. If I were over here, it would be this tile, which is a wall, and this code would run. Then what we want to do is we want to destroy it. And for now, I'm just going to destroy it. I have an idea of kind of how to spawn the resource in a second, but it's good to build your code up in little chunks like this so that you can test things as you go along. Okay, so I'm going to go into the scene category, and I want to set it to be a transparent tile at that location. So I'm going to duplicate this, set it to be transparent, which is this checkerboard pattern. So now let's go over here. Bam. Okay, so it's still a wall, which is why I can't go through it, but it has disappeared now. And to make it not a wall, we can go back into that same category. And we're going to drag out this set wall off block. And I'll duplicate this again. So now if I go over, I press A, and I can go into the
Oh, I think maybe those weren't walls. Because they're red.
You're right. Yeah, I knew I messed up the tile map somehow. We should probably change it so that you can actually see it if the tile's all red, but I guess that's a scenario.
We need a better wall overlay anyway. People are confused by the red.
Yeah, there we go. Now I can get through.
Maybe with some sort of pattern.
Okay. So we've done this for left, but now we need to do it for the other 4 directions. And I am going to
actually
do this with a loop.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Can we have a loop of those locations?
Yeah.
So will it destroy all walls adjacent to your rover, or?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so left, top, right, bottom. And I'm going to go into our loops category and drag out our trusty 4 element of block. And we are going to loop over this array that I'm just kind of creating inline here. So I'm going to replace this for the list. I'm not going to assign this because it's a pretty small array. I'm not too worried about it getting created every time. And now I'm going to put all of this code inside, and instead of referencing left here, I will take out the value, which is the local direction. So now let's go break some stuff.
Nice.
Awesome. This looks great.
Yeah.
On our way to Minecraft.
Yeah, don't tell the Minecraft team. All right. So this is good. Now let's actually spawn the resources that are being create it. And this is going to be interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another array here. I'm going to just duplicate this for now. And I'll make a new variable. And this is going to be called resource
inventory
items. So I'm going to need 3 arrays, I think. I'm going to need one for inventory, and then I want one to just be the thing that gets created when you destroy the...
Oh, sure.
In Minecraft, they're called entities. How about resource items?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Take these out, and I'm going to go into the images category and just create some images here that are going to represent our resources. Whoops. All right. So for ice, I'm just going to make a water drop, I think.
Sounds good.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Not amazing, but I think it kind of reads as water.
Yeah,
Okay.
and especially when there's going to be a bunch of them.
Yeah. All right. So for red, we have rocks. And for that, for now, I'm just going to do a bunch of red squares. Red.
I'm very excited for you to draw algae, though.
You guys. All right. It's going to be our rocks. And for algae,
Tiny specks of green, a little bit of brown.
Yeah.
You're turning over the soil and discovering the algae.
It's underground algae.
So these are the things we're going to be creating. And let's go ahead and we're going to now edit this a little bit so that we check to see which index tile we are destroying, and then use the same index to create one of these as a sprite, which is a resource. Sounds good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to get another for each. And before I do that, is a little trick. I'm going to rename all of the values to, what is it, direction? And now if I drag out another for each loop, it should just be value. And cool, now they're not shadowing each other, which is good.
So the problem there was if they were both named value, then inside the second for loop, you wouldn't know what value was.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so now we want to do for element value of, and this is going to be our resource tiles. And I'm going to make another variable here to clean up this code a little bit, which is location of wall. And I'm going to set this right here. Create a get location of wall. And this will make the code a little less crazy. Cool. So let's drag out an if statement, and we're going to say if. Well, first, I'm going to take this out. We always want to run this code. So I'm going to put it after the ifs, after the for loop. But before we destroy the tile, I want to loop over all of them, figure out which one is this. And you know what I'm realizing right now? I'm actually going to have to use a for loop with an index.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me go into loops, and I'm going to switch from this for of to a for index. Save state back in there, get rid of that, and set that there. And as long as I'm refactoring stuff, because this is getting a little nested, I'm going to make a function, and it's going to be called break tile in direction. And it's going to take in a number, which is the direction. All right. So this is kind of a little peek under the hood, but these directions here are actually numbers. So this should work fine. I'm hoping it will. We'll find out in a second. So I'm going to call this, and I want to pass the direction. And is everything happy? Yay! Hooray! The type checking works. And now I'll just drag all of this and put it in here. And that helps a bit. Oh, I knew it was too good to be true.
I think you're just
I see.
using a different, yeah.
It doesn't like that I used that, so I'll do that. And now it should be fine. Yeah, cool. All right. So for index from 0 to 4, and we talked about this a little bit before, but this is inclusive. So we want to actually go to the length of the array -1. So I'm going to go into math and drag out a minus block. Go into arrays, take out this length. I'm going to do length of resource tiles -1. And this will make it so that our index goes from 0 to the length -1. Arrays start at 0. And so the maximum value is going to be 1 less than the length.
So for our audience, since we know we have only 3 resources, why don't you just do 0 to 2?
So this will make it so that if I add more resources down the line, I won't have to go back and change this code. So by using the length of the array, if we decide we also want to have metal, I don't know. There's probably metal on Mars, right? It's pretty big. We can do that without having to change our code in a bunch of different places. We can just change it at the source array. Okay, for the location argument, I'm going to take this location of wall. And for this tile that we're checking against, I'm going to go into arrays and grab a get block. I'll change this to resource tiles. And I want to use the index. So I'll drag that in here. Okay, so if tile at location of wall is resource tile get value at index, then what do we want to do?
Spawn a resource.
Right. So I'm going to drag out a sprites create. I'm going to create a new kind. Called a resource. And I'm going to have to change this in a bit, which I'll explain. But for now, let's just do it like this. I'm going to create a new variable called this resource sprite. And I want to spawn it with the image that is the same index, but inside of the resource drops array. So that's creating our sprite. Let's do that real quick. And this is going to have a bug, but there we go. It's creating my resources all in the same place, which is the center of the screen. So before we get rid of this tile, what we want to do is we want to go into the scene category, grab the place on top of location block, and we are going to place the resource sprite on top of the location.
Location.
Yeah. Sorry. My brain's at like 50% capacity today. Okay. Set that there. One other thing I'm going to do real quick, because sometimes weird stuff happens with walls. I'm going to set wall off first so that the sprite isn't being spawned inside of a wall. This way, the wall will be turned off. We can still check the image, and then we'll set the image to be transparent at the end. Okay, let's try this out.
Hey,
Cool.
awesome.
Yeah. Looks awesome.
Yeah, this actually looks pretty cool.
Very
Much better than I thought it would. All right.
It's really satisfying.
So one small thing is that the resources appear on top of the rover.
Yeah. So one way I could fix that is by setting the z-index of all the resources. But I'm going to do the easier thing, which is I'm just going to set the z-index of the player. Daryl, do you want to give our classic what is z-index explanation?
Yes. So X controls horizontally, Y controls vertically, and Z controls in and out from the camera. So when you want something to be closer to the viewer or farther from the viewer, you change the Z index.
Yep. So the z-index starts at 0 for everybody. For the tile map, it's like negative something. I don't remember. Joey would know. But by setting the z-index to 10, I'm above 0, so it's going to be drawn above all of the resources. All right, cool. We've now got these resources being spawned, so we can finally get to the kind of purpose of this game, which was to actually track how many we have of all of these things. So I'm going to create another variable now, and this one's going to be called player inventory. And this is going to be an array. And at each value, just with these indices, the 0, 1, 2, we are going to be storing a number, and that is how many you have of that resource. So let's go ahead and make a new variable, and we're going to call this player inventory. Well, let's see if lightning strikes twice. Auspicious inventory.
Yes.
So I'm going to set this to auspicious inventory, go to arrays, and oops. Going to drag out this one because it has numbers. And I'm going to change all these numbers to 0. That right there. All right, so we start with 0 of all the resources.
So these represent, like, the first slot is like how much ice we have. Second slot is how much rock we have. And third slot is how much algae we have.
Yep, exactly. Okay. So now let's go ahead and add an overlap event. So we want to use an overlap event so that we have code that runs when we hit the resource sprite that we're creating. And we want to pick up that material that we're overlapping and add it to the player's inventory. So I'm going to go into the sprites category. I'm going to drag out an onSprite of kind overlaps block. For the first argument, I'm just going to leave that as player. For the second one, I'm going to change it to resource. And now what we want to do is we're going to destroy the resource. And here's where we're going to get to the problem that I talked about earlier. So we've got all the resources that are kind of spawning. They are being destroyed when we run over them. How do we tell what kind of resource it is that we are overlapping with?
So
What if,
we could change. Oh,
sorry, go for it.
Oh, I was going to say, so we could either change the kind of it, or we could maybe somehow store on the sprite which kind of resource it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if Daryl had something different.
That sounds great. I was actually thinking of the visual problem, which is that now that as soon as we're colliding with them or picking them up, you can actually go through a bunch of resources and not ever see the sprite.
Sure, yeah. So I was thinking for that, what we could do is inside of this on overlaps thing, you can use the B button to pick stuff up. So A destroys, B collects.
Nice.
Sounds great.
Cool. But for the other problem, so the kinds thing was my first thought, but that's not actually going to work very well. And the reason why is because we're going to have to define a separate overlap handler for every single kind that we create, which kind of goes against this fun little index thing that we have going on, which is making it really easy for us to add more resources. So instead, I think your second suggestion, storing it on the sprite itself, is probably the way to go here. And to do that, I'm actually going to go into the extensions dialog again, and I'm going to add this extension that we've been using a lot lately, which I do not have to search for, shows up at the bottom. It's this arcade sprite data. And this lets us add extra values to our sprites beyond the ones that are just kind of built into arcade, like X and Y. By the way, is someone watching the chat?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Joey's there.
Joey.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
All right.
Miss you, Joey.
We do miss you, Joey. So if the B button is pressed, we're going to destroy the sprite. But first, let's go over to our code here, which is the break tile in direction. I'll move this down because this is what we're going to be adding code to. And so we've got this index. When we're creating the sprite, what we want to do is we want to set the resource kind, basically. So to do that, the sprite data extension, let me zoom back in, add some extra blocks to the sprite category. And they all show up here under this data heading. And the one that I'm going to grab is the set item data to number. And here I'm going to store this index for the resource sprite. So I'll change item to be the resource sprite. For the data, what's a good name? Resource index?
Yeah.
Very literal. And I'm going to set it to the index. And now, because I liked it when Shannon did it this way before, just to kind of illustrate how this is going to work, I'm going to have the Rover sprite say which index is currently overlapping with. So I'll change this to auspicious. Actually, I will change it to this local sprite. Again, the reason we're using this local variable is because it makes it, if we want to change our game later to maybe add multiplayer, it'll work a lot better like this instead of hard coding a global variable all over the place. And I'm going to go into the text category, drag out this join block, which has the helpful property of being able to turn anything into a string. And I'm going to go into sprites back to the data heading, and I'm going to read the data as a number. And I called it resource index. And I want to drag this other sprite because the other sprite is the sprite of kind of resource. All right. So now, what's up?
No, you're good.
Okay, so now I'm saying the
Sprite
as I run over it. So ice is 0, algae is 2, and the rock is 1. Awesome. So that was just to illustrate stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, but I'll keep this block around. All right, so we have our auspicious inventory. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab a set value block from the array category. For this, I'm going to change list to auspicious inventory. I'm going to, for the first argument inside this set value block is the index on the array. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, just like the rest of our tiles. And for that, I'm going to go into this. I'm going to add a I'm going to get the resource index because, like I said, corresponds to this. And what I want to do is I want to set it to be 1 more than it was before. So we'll grab a math block. And I want to go into arrays, get the value at the same index. You know what I'm actually going to do? Because I think this might end up being something that we call in multiple places in our code. So just like we usually do for stuff like that, I'm going to make a function. And this is going to be change amount in inventory. Kind of long. The first argument that we're going to pass is a number, and that's going to be the resource index. And the second one is going to be called change by, and that'll be the number that we change it by. So right now we're just going to be passing 1 for that to change it by 1 so that it goes up. But if we're actually using the resources to do something in the future, we might change it by a negative number, you know, to bring the value back down. So let's take this guy, move it down here. And I'm going to call this function. So I'll go into the functions category, drag this one out. I'm going to pass in the resource index for the first argument. And for the second one, I'm just going to leave this as 1 because we want to increment it. I'm going to put this inside of our function, pass the resource index here, and I'm going to go into the arrays category, drag a get block out. We want to get the value at the resource index and add the change by to it. All right.
I think it'll need to be inside the, yeah.
Yeah. Drag math plus 1 plus change by. All right, cool. So this code is running, but we're not actually printing the inventory anywhere, so this is all we're going to get.
Cool.
All right. What's next?
Maybe displaying the inventory somewhere? Oh.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So we could display the number we have of everything. We could also make it so that our rover only has a limited space. So instead of displaying a number, we could display a bar that fills up, and it could be like the amount in the tank, basically.
Ooh, yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to put this down here. And this is going to be kind of similar to something that we did in our bodybuilding episode, where we made some HUD bars that kind of showed up at the top. HUD, by the way, is HUD, capital H, capital U, capital D. It stands for Heads Up Display. And it's really just kind of a term for stuff that is displaying information to the user that sticks to the screen. So it's not going to move with the camera. And to do that first, I'm going to create some sprites. So let's say we have just 3 bars for now, and they're all going to appear in this bottom left. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So let's create those sprites. I'll create a new variable. And we're probably going to run out of time on this game, but I think this is a good one for us to pick back up. What do you guys think?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we'll call this HUD sprite. I'm going to create a new kind called HUD. And I'm going to set a flag on it. So this is another thing we kind of covered in our bodybuilding episode, but the HUD sprite, what we want to do is we want to set a flag called relative to camera and turn it on. And the nice thing about this is it'll make it so that instead of being drawn relative to the actual world, like all of these other things are being drawn, it'll make it so it sticks to the screen, which is what we want. We want it so it's always in the player's field of view and it isn't moving around as the player moves. So relative to camera is perfect for that. And just another quick flag I'm going to turn on is ghost. And the ghost flag is nice because it makes it so that these sprites won't interact with the tile map or any other sprites for that matter, because we don't want it to like get bounced out by a wall or something, which will happen if we don't set this thing to be true. Okay. So I want these to be just kind of bars that are going to be filled up. And so I'm not going to set them to an image. I'm actually going to set it to an empty image. And let's make this 20 pixels wide and maybe 2 pixels tall. And
Sounds great. So is there a different HUD sprite for each bar?
Yeah, there will
are
be.
you thinking it? Okay.
I'm just doing one for now, and then I'm going to move this into a function probably. And
that's great. You could probably use one sprite image for all three, couldn't you?
That would be way more complicated for the drawing step.
I see.
Because I would have to draw rectangles based on all of it. And with this, I can make just a separate sprite for each one and then just do a fill. So I can do arrays just like we did before. So keep track of all of them. Okay. So I'm creating this image with width 20, height 2. We can't see it right now. So just to make it visible for debugging purposes, I'm going to go into the sprites category and grab out an image block, which will give us a reference to the HUD sprite image. Change this to HUD sprite. I'm going to go into the images category, which is under advanced. And I'm going to drag out this fill width, which will fill it just with a solid color. And let's fill it with pink. Cool. There's our HUD sprite. It's not really in a really useful place right now, but yeah, let's go ahead and move it. So I think since we've got this displaying on the screen, now might be a good time to break this out into a function so that I can create multiple of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to the functions category, click make a function, and this is going to be create resource bar. And you know what? I'm also going, not add comment, edit function. I'm going to add an argument, which is going to be the resource index. And I'll need that in a second. All right, I'm going to create a for. I need a for index like before, and I'm actually going to just copy the one that already exists. This one. Get rid of all the stuff inside. And what I want to do here is I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to get rid of this array of zeros because I don't want to add a 0 every time. So I'm going to make the code do it for me. And I'm going to go into the arrays and grab a add value to end block, this one right here. And I'm going to set the auspicious inventory and add the value 0. And this is going to run once for every tile in our resource. So it'll set the inventory to 0 for each one, just like it was before. But the difference is now I only have to deal with these two arrays. I don't have to deal with this one, which really doesn't have any information in it. It's just kind of this needs to be the same length as the other ones. Okay, so I did that. And I'm also going to drag out a call create resource bar and pass in the index. And now we've got a few different resource bars, but they're all on top of each other, so we can't actually see the difference. I think the bottom left is a good place for this to appear. And I'm going to use the resource index as a way to kind of do the layering of them. So I'm going to drag out a set block. I'm going to set the HUD sprite left to always be the same amount. I'm going to put it as just 10 for now. So it's right there. And then I want to set the bottom of the resource sprite. And I'm going to do some math here. So inside of the scene category, we can get a reference to the screen width or screen height.
From the very top.
Yep. Drag this out. So I'm going to do the screen height minus, do a plus here, and a times. And I want to set the bottom to be the screen height minus the resource index times some number, which is just going to be how much
Local variable.
Oh, yep. Once again. There we go. So this number here is basically going to be how much space each of the resources gets. So I'm just going to put it as 5 for now, and we'll see how that looks. And then I'm going to do bottom to screen height minus 5 times the resource index plus just the minimum amount, which will be like, I don't know, 2. That's just going to be the padding from the bottom. All right. There we go. That ended up being weird.
Oh, I think the nesting, I can't quite tell. No, that looks right.
Screen height minus 5 times the resource index plus 2. Maybe I should up this. What?
Oh, minus 4.
It should be plus, right? Because it's in this minus.
Oh.
Wait, what? Oh, it was divide. It was divide. I always get those icons mixed up. All right, we've got our 3 little bars down here. And just to make it so that it looks a little bit better, what I'm going to do, and this is just a fun little hack, is I'm going to fill it, instead of with pink, I'm going to get a color from the image that it represents. So I'm going to go into the image category. I'm going to get this color at blank blank. Let's do an arrays, get value at there. Set this, oh, whoops. Set this to resource index. And I'm going to set this array to be the resource tiles. So these resource tiles are all images. So now the color is going to match the resource tile color, which just looks a little bit
super cool.
So, yeah.
And when we add more resources, we'll automatically get new colors.
Yep. All right. So we've got this going now. And the other nice thing is that we aren't going to have to label these, which will be nice. I'm going to change this to 3 so that they're a little bit closer together. Yeah, that looks good. And what I'm going to do now is we want to make so these actually fill up to represent how much of how much of these things we have in the inventory. So I'm going to have to create another function, and this is going to be called something like, I don't know, update resource bar. But you know what? We're running out of time here, so I think I'm actually going to call it for today. This would be a good place to pick back up. But before we sign off, what is a name, a placeholder name for this game? And it should have auspicious in the title.
Well, auspicious sort of means things like, you know, good fortune is likely or something like that. I wonder if we could riff off of that.
So it's a game about collecting things. Also inventories and Mars. What
Gotta
is
break them all?
Red. Mars Mars was the god of war.
Okay, I think we're going too deep.
I'm a fan of integrating the color red. That seems like an achievable goal.
How about auspicious space algae?
Sounds good.
Perfect.
I like it.
All right, and this will just be our placeholder title until we finish this game and figure out what all the rest of the mechanics are. All right, well, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Richard, at Richard on the forum.
I'm Shannon, at Shakao on the forum.
And I'm Daryl, at Darzu on the forum.
And today's Thursday, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll probably be doing something weird tomorrow on the stream. Tune in, it'll be fun. Don't know what it is yet. Might be another little coding challenge. I don't know. Hopefully, if it's coding challenge this time, I'll be coding.
Yes.
All right. Thanks so much, folks.